What up, cappers, gamblers, punters, hustlers, low baggers? Happy Thursday, October 8th to all of you. Thank you for watching Betting with the Bag right here on odds.com on the odds headquarters. 0-2 day yesterday in MLB. Lost 5 straight in MLB and just can't get right. Definite fade material right now with my analysis. Those of you want a heads up on what to fade, I'm thinking the Rays at plus money is a good spot. And I want A's first 5 with Frankie hard toss Montas. So there's an early look of what you might want to fade or stay away from. Shout out to all the cappers in the chat. We got Adam Lastman ready to get to work, giving us a final score of the first quarter of Thursday Night Football. 3-3. 3-3 from Adam Lastman. 3-3. There's Joe Free in the house. Says, I must send my utmost respect to Nolly Knows. Once again, making unders great again. Braves 2, Marlins 0. Great job, Nolly, from our Joe Free. KD and Kyrie. Cardinals team total over 27.5. Steelers team total over 26.5. The Steelers, I go strange stuff from Ben in the interviews last couple of days. I thought that this week off was good, and he's making it sound like it's really bad for the club. But Cardinals team total over. I don't know if they'll need to get there in the fourth quarter. That's the only concern I have. I like it. I'm on Cardinals first quarter, first half. I don't dislike it at all. Barry Smith in the house. Barry. Dean Eden ready to go. There's Red Girl. Red Girl, great to see you. We've missed you. Slats 45 at 2-0 night. 8-0 last 3. He did tell us Tanaka was trash. I don't know. The only staying off the Dodgers minus 1.5 I was thankful for. Although I was going to take him first 5 minus a half. So it still would have cost me a half unit. So it still would have cost me money had I doubled up there. But not taking that first 5 over or even that full game over bothers me. Michael Hunter ready to go. Ravi Patel. Viper and B backdoor cover. Slots 45 on Stanton plus 1.5 hits minus 125. That guy is just absolutely rolling. We got TJ in the house. Backdoor cover saying another over in Houston Oak. These bullpens are taxed. So, we'll break it down. We got Nolly Knows on the show. We also got John Ryan. With Nolly Knows, we're going to talk about the 4 baseball games. We're going to talk Tulane, Houston, and then Nolly's got a couple spots on the NCAA football card he wants to attack. Then we're going to have John Ryan come in, and he's looking at some big games. So just a heads up to excite you guys, to whet the palate of what's coming up. Nolly and I are going to start with that Tulane, Houston. Then Nolly's going to talk FAU, Southern Miss, and Mississippi State, Kentucky. And then John Ryan's going to come in. We're going to do Florida, Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, and Tennessee, Georgia. Some big boy games. Ravi Patel in the house. Great to see you back in action, Ravi. PG007. There's Birdie ready to go. Sean Dozier ready to go. Sean Dozier with a Bucks victory. I've still not moved on the Thursday nighter. And Bebsy, my partner in crime, who's sitting at 17-6 on the year, has not made a bet on a Thursday nighter yet this year. Mark Rosado. Dean Eden says for KHL fans, loving the over 5.5 on Loco Spartak. From our Dean Eden, love his KHL looks. Love my man Dean. All righty, Steve Dunn. Thinking about the under 60. There's so many moving parts with this Cougars team that hasn't played all year and was supposed to be playing. So many moving parts. Hala Madrid ready to get to work. Jay Hugh, CT Base, Hustle Wilson doing just that. Hustlin'. Bill McHugh, Chief Billion. All right, time to get to work. Michael Irvelina, Elliot V. All right, let's go. And Ravi Patel says Lakers close out. That is tomorrow. We're going to have Dutch Boy Fresh on the show for that. All righty, let's go. Oh, and CT Base says props to whoever said Mexico in soccer. That was a brilliant look. Brilliant look from our low bagger. We got a plus 350. And he was adamant. He was pushing hard on us. And I didn't pull the trigger. I can't, man. If I had pulled the trigger, it wouldn't have come through. Viper MB says, yes, I tailed that Mexico play. It was a thing of beauty. It was an absolute thing of beauty. Plus 350. Thank God. This low bag chat is spectacular. And Nut Flush On said, that's why I said, no way you bet the run line. He did. He absolutely did. All right, let's bring in our man, Nolly Knows, in the house. Nolly, my guy, welcome. Happy Thursday morning to you. Waking up bright and early. How are you, my friend?
What's going on, Jimmy? Doing real well, man. It's always a pleasure to be here. Always happy to be here to talk sports. Yeah, early, but let's try to beat that line movement, Shout out to everybody in the chat, man.
Yes, bright and early, coming to us from Long Beach, California. Daniel says, yes, Nolly, the man. Let's get to work. An 0 for day yesterday. But let's just focus on today and right now. We're going to start with Braves Marlins. Braves Marlins. Let's see what we are dealing with. Atlanta opens up at minus 140. They're now minus 135. Interesting. Very, very interesting market movements here. Sanchez, Sixto, opened up at plus 120. And I was like, man, Sixto at plus 120. And then I was like, is there value there against Kyle Wright, who had such a much better last few starts of his season than what is his first few. And then it goes up to plus 125. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess people aren't buying it. But now we have it down to plus 115. So money coming in on the Miami Marlins right now. This total is, sorry, I just moved off of just over to money lines. This total is sitting at 9. It opened at 8.5, and you can still get over 8.5 heavily juiced up to about minus 130 right now. All right, let's go. Minute Maid Park in Houston. Atlanta leading the series 2-0. Kyle Wright versus Sixto Sanchez. Kyle Wright, 2-4, 5.21 ERA, 1.55 whip, 38 innings, 30 Ks, 24 walks. This is a very highly thought of prospect, very, very high draft pick. And he looked terrible early in the year, but he got better. Part of his bad run was 2 starts against Miami in the regular season, 8-2 and 8-0 losses, roughed up for 9 hits, 3 homers, 8 runs in 7 innings, 0-2, 6.92 ERA against Miami in 3 starts. So we have a pitcher in Kyle Wright who started terrible and came on late. We have a pitcher in Sixto Sanchez who was spectacular early, then got hit very hard in his last 2 regular season starts, went into the playoffs in an extremely important game and pitched 5 innings of scoreless ball, 3-2, 3.46 ERA, 1.21 whip in the regular season. And these Braves smash righties, 273, 852 OPS, while the Marlins do not. There's a bit of a table set for Nolly Knows. We got more stats and stuff to break down, but take it away, Nolly. Braves Marlins.
Yeah, well, I look at this game right away. The standout, Sixto Sanchez. We've talked about him a few times here on the show, and the guy is phenomenal. Got 3 really good pitches that he likes to use, likes to mix them up a lot. Gets the ball over 100 miles an hour, only second to DeGrom, and most pitches over 100 or at 100, I believe. And I believe when you look at his numbers, a little bit deceptive against Atlanta. He did give up 4 runs, only 3 innings, but only gave up 4 hits. Not indicative, not typical of what really transpires in baseball. Typically require more hits, especially that he didn't give up any home runs. Gave up 3 runs in the first inning, and then another in the third, and then was yanked after 75 pitches. But the first time against them, he only gave up 3 hits, 6 Ks, 1 walk, and the issue was that he tried to be a little bit too fine with his off-speed pitches. This is Atlanta ball club that can't hit velocity. Like you said, they hit right-handers well, and they hit the fastball well. So the key thing is how well he's going to be using his off-speed pitches, but I have a lot of faith in him. He talks about that. I read a couple article clips. He talks about that outing and how he's been trying to work on those crafts and work on those mistakes that he made in that game. The issue was that he walked four batters. And then the other outing that he did get hit was against Washington, but Washington actually got to him the first time around, three runs, I believe 6 hits in that game. So I believe Washington just kind of had his number for the season. Whereas here with the Braves, I don't expect what happened to be really a sign of what can happen here. I think he can pitch well against Atlanta. Their bats got quieted down a little bit yesterday, which I think will help him a little bit. little bit different style pitcher as well than Pablo Lopez. And on the other side, Kyle Wright. I mean, Kyle Wright was a big prospect for them coming up, number 3 overall prospect for them, but they used him out of the bullpen the last few seasons. They had to use him as a starter. They had to use him as a starter this year. And I mean, you look at his ERA at a 5.21, 1.55 WHIP. I believe he pitches a little bit better than that, but not a whole lot. And the big concern that I see is how he's fared against these Miami Marlins. Got lit up 2 times, 3 innings, 2 hits, 3 earned runs, 6 walks, and only 1 K his first time. And when we look at that right away, that's a big issue. He's only got 30 strikeouts to 24 walks. That is not anywhere near where you want to be as a major league pitcher. They want to see at least 2-to-1 ratio. That he's far from that, almost equal ratio. And the second time he saw Miami, 4 innings pitched, 7 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 home runs. I mean, I don't understand. There's no way that I can back the Atlanta Braves with Kyle Wright. I don't know how long they're going to let him out there. I guess it all depends if they have the lead or not. But to me here, I see a clear-cut advantage on the first 5, and there's no way that I'm not going to take that with the Marlins.
I completely understand that feeling, but we are talking about Kyle Wright, 3 straight quality starts to end the year at the Nationals, at the Mets, at home versus the Red Sox. Those are 3 clubs that hit the ball hard. The at New York Mets, the middle of that sandwich, 6 1/3, 1 hit, scoreless, 6 Ks, 1 walk. I saw a turnaround there, and you don't trust it. Is that it?
No, I really don't. I mean, those are 3 ball clubs that didn't whiff the playoffs. You know, as good as those teams can be, and some of those bats are good over there. Don't get me wrong. But no, I'm not trusting Kyle Wright. I mean, I think he's better than his numbers would indicate for the season, but I don't believe he's better than 6 though, and I don't like his numbers here against Miami. What they've been able to do against them.
Well, let's break that down a little more. Kyle Wright. So we know Alfaro 4 for 4 against them, 2 homers, smashing them. Then you have Garrett Cooper 1 for 2. Joyce and Dickerson Cooper and Joyce, have gone deep against them. Dickerson 2 for 4 against them. So overall, they're hitting 357 with a 1.292 OPS against them. And Sixto is shut down these Braves, 185 with a 556 OPS against them. Very, very, very interesting. So you are going to pull the trigger on the first 5. Is that right, Nolly?
Yeah, I gotta take the Miami. I gotta take Marlins first 5. I mean, I don't like what I see out of the bats. They're cold as of late, but I think they step up here. This is the guy that they're gonna back for years to come. It looks like so. It starts now, but I like it. I especially like the way he looked. You know, there was doubts about him going into his last start, and he came in and pitched extremely well, getting a little confidence for the youngster going into this game.
Well, I guess that'll just keep me off of it, because what did you think of Sixto's wild card performance? That 5 innings of scoreless.
I mean, I thought he showed a lot of what he's capable of doing. I thought he pitched really well. I mean, 6 Ks, two walks. You know, I thought his presence is you can see it. You know, he was feeling himself up there. If he's got the command, you got to watch out, and that's a big thing with him at this young age. Is what he has is a lot of command, and with all 3 of his above average pitches.
Yeah, I'm just a little hesitant. So you saw those last 2 games of the regular season for Cisco, just a blip on the radar, just a bump in the road, and then he's back in action?
Well, what I see with Washington, I think Washington can hit him. That's what I saw. Washington hit him twice, but I didn't see that Atlanta really hit him extremely well. I mean, they got to him early, gave up the gave up the 3 early and was able to settle into the game. But mind you, 4 hits and 4 earned runs without a home run, not typical of what you're going to see in the stat line. I don't expect to see it again. I think he can pitch very well. I like it, especially the way he pitched last time. I think that's a big boost for him.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to go up against you here, but I'm not sold. I think that Kyle Wright is improving. I'm just not quite sold at this point. We have Nolly Nose making a move on the Miami first 5. What do you think of this first half total at 4.5?
Typically an angle that I do like to approach when you see the Miami team that's not been able to hit the ball really well here recently. But I don't know whether to trust Kyle Wright to give me the 2 or 3 or give up 3, and then I need perfection from 6 though, which can't demand that in the MLB playoffs. I find it tough. I'm being a little timid lately, especially with these overs hitting. But if any game, it's going to be these 2. But I mean, it'd be a lean for me, but I feel stronger on trying to take the advantage with Miami.
We got Nolly on the board. The Marlins first 5 cash action bets is on the Marlins. We have Yellow Jesus, who's joined us to bless our picks and wants to shout out for his boy Young Fortune. 90% run in baseball this year. I don't know if I've heard that in my life. Shout out to Young Fortune. Alrighty. Well, that's going to keep me off here. Let's move on to game 2, 3:35 p.m. Eastern. A's at Astros. We got Mr. Gokster, Ron Crawford rolling with us. And Robert Allen, by the way, says he's going to let the pressure get to him, I think, and choke. The Marlins are going to score. Bet Atlanta pulls him after just 2 or 3 innings because he gets touched big. So Robert Allen not trusting Kyle Wright. Ravi Patel also on the Marlins. And JT liking Atlanta full game. All right, 3:35 p.m. A's Astros game 4. Houston leading the series 2-1. We're at Dodger Stadium at 72 Fahrenheit clear, 5 miles per hour out to right center. We have Frankie Montas, 3-5, 5.60 ERA, 1.51 WHIP. Another pitcher with just a roller coaster season, an absolute roller coaster season. Starts spectacular. First 4 starts, 2-1, 1.57 ERA. Looks like the ace that we had expected of him. Then he gets his upper back tightness, misses 9 days, comes back and gets touched. 1-4, 10.88 ERA, looks bad. Then in his final start of the regular season, 6 scoreless and strikes out 12. And when he was in that wild card game, that crucial game 3 against the White Sox, he looked good for 2 or 3 innings, and I thought, oh wow. And then he got touched. But those White Sox bats are so dangerous. Bullpen day for the Astros, and Baker, old Dusty Baker, 3-13 in potential postseason closeout games in his career. He's lost 10 straight. That doesn't really make sense that he's lost. Oh, in 5-game and 7-game series. Sorry, that's why. Because that's why they're not counting the win against Minnesota. In 5 and 7-game series, he's lost 10 straight potential closeout games. But these Houston bats are raking. 302, 8 home runs against the A's. They're absolutely raking. They didn't hit righties very hard during the year. And what can we trust from the Astros bullpen is the question. No line out, no total out. But let's hear what the lean is going to be once we see a market for this game. Nolly knows, take it away. A's Astros game 4 ALDS.
Yeah, here game 4, a big comeback victory for the Oakland A's. Keep them alive. Good postseason baseball to watch at least, even though they're all going over there. But here, Frankie Montas, yeah, that's a big question mark. You know, a big difference from what you've seen last year, and especially at the beginning of the season. 5.6 ERA, 1.51 WHIP, a lot higher than what I would expect it to be. He did have a good start against Seattle in his last start, 13 strikeouts and 2 walks, but got lit up start before that, the last 2 starts before that against the Dodgers and the Rangers. So not a guy that I'm really trusting right now, and I don't know how deep he'd actually go into it might end up using a lot of bullpen guys. Is the same thing for the Houston Astros, and you got to believe that the bullpens are taxed. This is going to be the fourth game and fourth day, and that's the issue. That's something I jotted down in my mind, mental note, that when these guys start getting deeper into the bullpen, it's harder to trust, and the only thing I see is runs. It's hard to say that these bats are going to cool off. You see both sides are starting to hit the ball a lot, and that's what I would expect here. Leans to the over first five and full game.
Leans to the over first five and full game, which makes sense. What do you think about this Astros bullpen? They had looked lights out until yesterday, so I don't want to take just a recency bias that they're vulnerable, but they looked bad during the regular season, and they looked bad yesterday, and now it's a bullpen day. Do you think that there's an advantage with the A's first five?
That's a question mark for me because of the fact of Frankie Montas. There's not a lot that I've liked this season from him. I guess a good indicator would be his last start, being able to throw those 13 strikeouts, but against a Seattle Mariner team. Still, they fared pretty better than most people thought, but still, I just don't really trust him this year, and that's my biggest issue. And how deep he ends up going, that's a question mark. He did throw 113 his last, but before that, didn't really get too high in his pitch count. Guy really didn't like a lot of his command during the entire season. Just I don't know, hard to trust him, Jimmy. That's where I'm at right now.
Understandable. And we are expecting Christian Javier to be on the mound. He did pitch an inning yesterday. That's who I'm expecting to be on the mound. I don't know how long he's going to go. Do you have an expectation of who's going to be on the bump for the Astros?
Yeah, when I was going through it, I was thinking the same exact thing. But like you said, he just pitched yesterday. And so I just got to believe all hands on deck. If he can eat up some innings, they'll let him go. They'll play it by ear is what I would expect them to do. But, I mean, I think it's tough. That's the one thing that I see. It's very taxing on a lot of these guys, where typically they would have that break between the second and third game, and it's affecting these series substantially.
Joey W. and Johnny K talking about the overs in the Yankees-Rays series. We're going to get to that next. I want to back Montas here. I do, but these Astros bats have just come to life. So could you review again what you are expecting your official action to be on this game once the market is revealed?
Well, I don't know if I will end up pulling the trigger, but I think I might end up taking the over. If I do end up taking it, it will end up being full game to take full advantage of the bullpens getting taxed. The more guys they use, the more chances of somebody not being off. So that would probably be my only move in this game.
And what do you think about this A's offense? Concerns when Chapman went down. They seem to be coming together at the right time, and they despise this Astros squad. What are your expectations of the A's offense?
I like the way that they've been scrapping. A big victory, big come from behind victory yesterday seems to ignite the team. And the fact that they're playing on back-to-back days, like I said, the big disadvantage for the bullpen, and I think that's an advantage for the offense. The more at-bats on back-to-back days that they see, I think that's the advantage for the offense. Like you said, they've been hitting a lot significantly better. After losing Chapman, it was real tough. They weren't able to score runs. But like you said, they despise this team. It's scrappy. It's fun to watch. It's a fun series to watch. I hope it keeps going. You got the Dodgers and Padres kind of getting scrappy too. I hope that extends. I like seeing these type of games.
All righty. I have a lean towards A's first five. Very interested to see what that number is going to be at. Is your expectation first five to be the A's minus 115, Astros minus 105.
I mean, I could see that. I guess it depend on who they actually decide to go with, but I mean, I guess that's tough. I don't know. I think pretty even. Yeah, pretty even. So somewhere close. Maybe I mean probably it'd probably end up being lean that towards Oakland, and the full game would probably be Houston favored.
Yeah, I would say that makes sense. Houston being at minus 115 and the A's being at minus 105 full game, and the flip. Alrighty, there you go. A's, Astros. I have a lean to the first 5. Nolly has a lean to the full game, and we'll see what the market reveals. Hopefully, very soon. So, if anybody gets a market on that game, please let us know. All right, we move into the 7:10 p.m. Eastern game, Rays at Yankees. These games have been going over. We do have a market here. Rays opened up as slight dogs, and have become bigger dogs as the day has moved on. See how fast this has moved. It's actually coming back. So some books, there was a 16, 17 cent move towards the Yankees, and now it's coming back. So since the highest it got, plus 125 for the Rays, now plus 121. The Yankees got up to minus 136 at some books. They're now minus 130. Viper MB says, taking all my strength not to take the Yankees. Well, there's a couple things I think are going to happen here. And again, I've lost 5 straight. But we know there's a Yankees tax. Money's going to come in on the Yankees. And I just feel like the Rays can get the job done here. And they must. They know Garrett Cole's waiting for them in Game 5. And it's not that they can't beat Garrett Cole, but they know he's waiting for them in Game 5. This is their golden opportunity. Jordan Montgomery, 2-3, 5.11 ERA, 1.30 whip, 47 Ks in 44 innings, 9 walks, 71 Fahrenheit clear, 9 miles per hour sideways in. These Rays hit lefties, 794 OPS against lefties. And I like a Rays bullpen day. I got no problem with a Rays bullpen game. And if you look at who is available, Fairbanks and Nick Anderson didn't pitch yesterday. So these are 2 high leverage relievers ready to go. Ryan Thompson's going to start. That's side armor. Yarbrough will be their bulk guy. And I see Montgomery as being vulnerable. And this Yanks offense has Stanton 6 homers, 13 RBIs, but Judge 2 for 14, Voit 1 for 11, Urshela 2 for 12. And Montgomery last pitched September 24th. I think he's very vulnerable. And I'm interested in backing the Rays here. Cash Action says Yanks even it up tonight. Connor Mack says need my Rays to come through. Rob Watkins says Rays. Montgomery's control isn't great. Walks a lot. Ravi says Rays should get it done today and the under. TJ says Montgomery changed his philosophy 3 games ago. K's up significantly in the last 3 starts. Rays hit lefties, but also strike out a lot against lefties. That 4.5, by the way, on the prop is heavily juiced to the under, TJ. So at Bet365, the strikeouts 4.5 minus 140 to the under, plus 100 to the over. I'm leaning Rays, Nolly. Rays Yankees, Game 4, ALDS. Take it away.
Yeah, I could definitely understand what you're saying there, Jimmy. Especially the fact that like what you said, you're going to pay that tax with the New York Yankees. And I mean, what you've seen with the Yankees, and it's a little scary. There's been a decline with their runs. Every single game you've seen it go down 12, 10, 8. Weren't able to produce very much, but you do see the tear that Giancarlo Stanton, Mike Stanton, actually. I hate saying Giancarlo, but he's on an absolute tear right now, and going to go try to set I think tie the record, I believe, for 6 straight. And like you said, bullpen day over here for Tampa Bay is still scary. They talk about the stable. They're wearing those shirts in reference to Kevin Cash's comments after getting thrown at by Aroldis Chapman. This is a team that wants to beat the New York Yankees real bad, and they're pushing that a lot. Like I mentioned, they're wearing the shirts with the horse stable on there, and it's scary what the Rays are doing. I like that ball club. They don't rely on just one guy. And on the other side, you got Montgomery on the mound. It's hard to trust them. I did notice what they alluded to in the chat about the strikeout to walk ratio here going down and going down the stretch, and some that he did want to change up a few things. But am I going to trust them, especially the way that the Rays have been hitting the ball right now? Uh, this is a tough game not to continue to take the overs in these games. And you mentioned it with Mike Anderson or Nick Anderson. I'm sorry, the fact that he hasn't thrown much more than 2 innings. I believe he went the other day, and I expect him to go today. He's only given up 1 hit against right-handed batters, striking out just almost half the batters he's faced this entire season. 26 strikeouts out of 58 batters. The guy's been lights out. I expect him to come into this game and throw a couple innings. So if the Yankees want to win this game, they got to get out early. And I'm not sure if I trust it. Their bats don't seem to be coming alive. They seem to be going in the wrong direction. I don't know if I'm gonna make a move here, but I like your angle.
Got Tommy Gun in the house. His pitching advantage, Tampa. Montgomery home run issues will loom large. Teams tied 1-1, winning game 3 in 5-game series. Win series 72% of the time. And Viper saying money coming in on this under. It's flying in on this under. Flying in on this under. So not the first 5. This first 5 sitting at 5. But the full game total has shot down. Let me give you an idea of it. It opened at 9.5, juice to the under. It's now down a full run at most books. At a few books. The leading indicator books have moved it to 8.5. But there are 9s at a bunch still. And they vary in price. You can get the under 9 at plus money. You can get it at minus 125. Very important where you are shopping here. Mr. Gogi says runs early here. So then, Nolly, if you are sitting there and you want the Rays, would you advise waiting for the New Yorkers to put money on their Yankees, waiting until half an hour before the game?
Yeah, I mean, common perception, Yankee fan or even like a guy that not really aware of too much, there's no way they can lose again. That's really a common thought. So you got those guys, and guys are just going to unload on the Yankees every time anyway. So I think this is a tough spot for the Yankees. Tampa is a really good ball club, and I think the Yankees are in trouble today.
I think the Yankees are in trouble today. So at this point, do you expect to make any official plays on this game?
No, I don't think I'll end up pulling the trigger on this game.
Well, I think I'm going to. Ravi, I don't have any other social media than Twitter. I'm 41 years old. I don't take pictures. So just Twitter for me, my friend. And it helps focusing on just one thing. All right, we move on to 9:08 p.m. Eastern. Dodgers, Padres, NLDS, Game 3. Dodgers lead the series 2-0. Globe Life Field in Texas, and that was a spectacular baseball game. It had everything. And you just wish there was, 50,000 screaming fans there as well. It was – I can't imagine – anything more enjoyable than these two teams going at it. And how about going at it on a bullpen day? We're going to have the 21-year-old Cuban Adrian Morejon opening, and 25 Ks, 4 walks, 19 in the third. Young enough and bullish enough to not get uncomfortable. Maybe it helps if there's nobody in the stands. Dodgers versus lefties, 250, 778 OPS. They've improved. There was a big lull against lefties in the middle of the year, but then they started smashing lefties. Roberts has not decided who he's going to go with, and he's got some spectacular options. I mean, this isn't like Jace Tingler looking down at his group. He's got Gonsolin or Urias, depending on what he wants to do here. He's in a pretty nice spot. He's in a pretty nice spot. Lots of things to break down in here. And let's start with what your feel is. Dodgers, Padres. We have no market at this point. Do you have an early lean? Do the Dodgers sweep?
I mean, it's a tough to say that they're going to sweep the San Diego Padres, especially because of the way they responded yesterday. Machado hits that big home run, kind of gets them going a little bit, and then they're able to get a Kenley Jansen. It just showed a lot of life. That's the type of ball club this is. They're not going to go down without a fight. So it's hard to say they're going to sweep because it's very difficult to beat a team twice, let alone 3 times in a row. But it's a tall task for the youngster to come in here, just 21 years old. He is their number 7th prospect, and he is a starting pitcher by nature. They have been using him out of the bullpen, but more of a starter. They'll be using him later in his career. And I mean, you look at some of his numbers: 4.66 ERA. The guy's been decent. Nothing too great about him. But like you said, it's a bullpen day. And will I continue to trust this Padres bullpen? I haven't trusted it at all. Like you said, we got beat on it that one day, and I'll take my chances going against them time in and time out. And for the Dodgers, no other starter that I'm really looking at other than Tony Gonsolin. That was the guy that I expected it to go in the last time. And then the fact that I saw Dustin May come out of the bullpen, those are the 2 guys that I believe that they were looking at. And whoever I saw come out of the bullpen, the other guy would start game 3, in my opinion. And that's what we have here. And Gonsolin, that guy's been really good this year. 2.31 ERA, 0.84 WHIP. He did get touched up a little bit in his last start against the Angels, gave up 4 earned runs, but the most he had given up, that's the most runs he'd given up all season. I like the way the kid looks. He got a great presence. He's real scrappy on the mound, and I think he can pitch well here, keep the Dodgers in the game. Maybe a look in the Dodgers the first 5, but I gotta think the Dodgers are juiced. They'll be heavily juiced.
What do you think of this Dodgers bullpen that has looked very vulnerable all of a sudden? They have a 1.29 ERA, 0.86 WHIP in the playoffs. They were great during the regular season, 2.74 ERA, 1.04 WHIP. But after watching last night, you have to think the Padres want to get to that back end. Neither Kenley Jansen or Joe Kelly looked. I think they both look vulnerable. So, what is your expectation of this bullpen?
I mean, I like the bullpen. There's still a few guys that haven't gone yet, and Gatterall is the big thing. Especially seeing what transpired yesterday with Kenley Jansen. Kenley Jansen has been a liability for a large part of the season going down the stretch, but then he goes straight on runs. Because at the end of the season, after he had blown a few games in a row, he goes 6 outings with 0 earned runs. That's the type of runs he goes on, and that's why he doesn't get demoted. But here in crunch time, he's shown it that in tough situations, he does give it up. It's really been him that's given it up so far. The Dodgers held the Padres just 1 run the first game, and I understand Joe Kelly. He walks the first 2 batters. The command issue can be an issue, the command for him at times, but a couple of those pitches were really close. So I don't think there's a huge concern for the Dodgers bullpen because they are fresh. You're getting a lot of innings out of guys, especially Dustin May coming in, eating up those innings was a big factor, especially here. Now you're in the 3rd game, especially if it gets extended to the next game. It's a tough spot for these ball clubs to be in.
So we saw the market yesterday with Kershaw on the mound. And I would like to say it opened at minus 210 and went up to minus 235. I'm not sure. Let me see if I can verify that here. It certainly ended between minus 225, minus 235. It opened between minus 200, minus 210. So that's Kershaw Davies. So Gonsolin versus a bullpen day. What's your guess? Dodgers full game here.
I mean, In my opinion, it should be even closer around that range, but I think you'll probably get like 170. Probably Dodgers minus 170, around that range. Um, Gosselin hasn't been a huge favor in his last few starts, and coming off a rough start, he hasn't pitched in a little while.
In Turmoil, I am odds in the chat. So Turmoil asking about unit size, and I wish my unit size was higher, and I guess that's the goal of every capper. And I had a nice jump in my unit size about 3 years ago, when I went down south to Costa Rica. A nice jump, and there hasn't been one in a long time, and it's irritating. Alrighty, so from a total perspective, I'm guessing this is at a 8.5 juice to the over. What's your guess? Full game total.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable considering. I mean, what did it open at yesterday? I didn't even get the chance to see what it opened at yesterday.
Let me check that out. Still up here. Okay, why don't we go right here? Yesterday, and the Dodgers was minus 210 to minus 225. Yesterday, it opened at 8.5 and closed at 8. Let's see if that's fair. Yeah, that's all books. Some went 8.5, 8, 8.5, 8, but that was the situation. What do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, I see 8.5 juice to the over is kind of how it opened, and I expect it to be something similar. I mean, I believe you got a lot of action to the under, especially a reaction to what transpired in the first game, where a lot of balls were coming up short. They changed out those balls and brought in the over balls now, and but 8.5. I mean, I don't know. Total's tough right now because I just expect the bullpen to give it up for San Diego. And the one thing that is scary is the San Diego bats, and I don't expect them to go away. I didn't really think that Gatterall did all that much throwing his glove, but I don't like anything that riles up a team that's down. So just the fact that he did anything, I don't really like it, but I guess that's all part of the game now. He did nothing different than what Machado did when he hit a home run and threw the bat in the same manner. But I mean, I'm old school, not really a fan of that because I don't like kicking a sleeping dog, and that's my one fear with San Diego's bats. So I mean, I just think that these totals are going to keep climbing. You're going to continue to see overs in a lot of these games, especially later into the series. So I would lean over.
Yeah, I didn't like it either. I had no problem with it, but I'm exactly the same way that you broke it down. You did that perfectly. All right, JL took Padres money line live. Yeah, I guess there's going to be just no move at this point for the Dodgers game for me. Officially, I'd like to move on A's first 5, Rays first 5 in full game. Again, I've lost 5 straight, and it's been a rough year. Started out beautifully, fell apart late. Nolly, have you made any bets yet? And what is your plan?
I have not made any bets yet, but the move that I'll look to make, if I get that plus 100 or even money on that Miami first 5, I'll lay 110 even. But that's the move that I will make. Other than that, I got nothing else today so far.
All right, and you will have to stay on Nolly's Twitter at Nolly562 to see what other moves he makes. All right, there you go. There is the 4 ALDS and NLDS games, and the Rays are going to be where I put my money, and I'm going to keep a very close eye on the market and see what I can get. But the Rays in 22 at-bats against Montgomery are 9 for 22 with 2 doubles, 2 home runs, 409 average, 1.208 OPS. Mr. Gokster, no run first inning in LAD San Diego. He's been doing very well with those. Alrighty, let's move on to NCAA football, Nolly, my man. We are going to start with Tulane, Houston. And I know that you have looks on FAU, Southern Miss, and Mississippi State, Kentucky. But let's start with Tulane, Houston. And God, the COVID makes things tricky, man. And it gets no trickier than this situation with the Cougars. They thought they've had 5 games canceled. And now we have 7s on the board. And that was clear that was going to happen. This morning, you could have got Houston at -6.5. Nothing from my breakdown made me want to jump on Houston at -6.5, but the betting public wants it. So it opens up at 4.5. It's now at 7. And this total is at between 59 and 60. But there's only 160 left. So it looks like money's coming in on these unders right now. Cash Action Bet says Houston is the play at -7. A. Hilly's on the over. Tulane, Houston at 59.5. So for Houston, games against Washington State, Rice, Baylor, North Texas have been canceled. The December 5th game against Memphis is being rescheduled. But Holgerson is like, man, we're healthy. We're in a good place. We're ready to go. We're prepared. We're eager, saying all the right things. But they're breaking in 33 junior college FCS and FBS transfers. They also lost Derek King when he transferred. Clayton Toon comes in, 1,533 yards, 11 touchdowns to 7 games, just 59% completions and 9 picks. That is your Houston Cougars team. I find it interesting that anybody can have a real clear expectation on what they're going to get from that club. Then we go to the Green Wave. Green Wave 2-1 start the year, 0-1 in conference. Road wins over South Alabama and Southern Miss. 3rd in the AAC in total defense, 368.3 yards per game. 4th in total offense, outscoring opponents 39-25. Won last year's meeting 38-31 with a 53-yard score with 3 seconds left. And Fritz benched Keon Howard in Tulane's last game against Southern Miss. And as soon as he did that, their offense exploded with Michael Pratt. Pratt goes 9-19 with 142 yards, 2 touchdowns. They lose their leading rusher, Tyjae Spears, and it doesn't matter. They have such a deep, deep core of running backs. They put up 427 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground. 7.9 yards per carry against the Golden Eagles. Cameron Carroll, 7 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown in 3 games. And D. Summers says Tulane +7. Tulane's run offense racked up more than 400 against Southern Miss. Houston hasn't played a game and should be rusty. Blitz W liking Houston early. Ravi Patel interested in the under. And Joseph Gomez says, is Houston going to have fans? Let me look that up. I don't have that in front of me, and I'm not sure. That's a good question, Joseph. Tulane, Houston. Nolly knows. Take it away. Any looks?
This is a game what I see is a lot of question marks. You know, Houston, it's tough for them to get up for the game. Are they still expecting it to get canceled at the last second? I mean, one of their games got canceled with just 24-hour notice. So it's been a tough ride for them to not be able to play, specifically because of the turnover. You know, you got so many different moving pieces here with this team. And with Dan Hogerson in his first year over there with Houston, I thought it was a bit weird. He was asking guys to sit out their year, take their red shirt, to kind of take the year off. One of the linebackers came out and said that. You see Derek King, he did that, ends up transferring out. So I'm not sure what to expect here from this Houston ball club. One thing I have seen over the last few years is that he hasn't been going with the same air raid attack as he used to. You got the only guy really still doing that is Mike Leach over there at Mississippi State. The only guy that stays true to just simple air raid. Hogerson has been mixing it up with the run significantly more the last few years, especially over there at West Virginia in his last year there. And on this side with Tulane, you mentioned it with the quarterback change. That was a big change for them, and they came out and completely demolished Southern Miss. Southern Miss, still a lot of questions over there with that team, but Tulane has looked pretty good. They had a tough come-from-behind victory from Navy, which I don't believe they had any business losing that game, and then they beat South Alabama. I like the way that they've been able to run the ball. That was a big weakness here for Houston last year, and I don't think they'll be able to correct it. I see a lot of running, and just for me on this standpoint, I gotta agree with you that Tulane looks pretty good with the points. There's no way that I can trust a Houston team their first time out to lay 7 points, but just too many question marks for me. Do some of these guys come out and show out? Some of these transfers can really pan out and come in and ready to play right away, whereas some of these freshmen take a while. So, I mean, just too many questions for me.
Jay Certified saying Tulane +7. Birdie says NCAA football teams who have not played versus teams who have are 12-4 against the spread, covering by more than a 9-point average. So no advantage playing the team that has not played yet. You know, what do you think of this idea by Rob Watkins? And I think there's truth to it. Houston hasn't played yet, 7-point favorites, opening at 4.5. Tells me Vegas knows a lot more than anybody else. Somebody has to know something. Why is Houston taking all this money?
I mean, I guess they don't trust really Tulane. They don't believe in what they saw at Tulane. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't trust it. There's no way game one I'm going to be trusting that. And I mean, I understand those numbers, but I'd have to look deeper into that record. What teams are winning against who I'd have to look at that 12-4. But yeah, I wouldn't trust it.
Well, I'm not going to. Something just doesn't feel right here. So I've got no move at this point. There's just too many moving parts. Too many moving parts, too many questions for you to make a move on the total as well, Nolly?
Yeah, I didn't really like Houston's defense last year. They didn't look good at all. Got ran on quite a bit. And that sets the tone for offenses. If you can't stop the run, you're not going to be able to stop the pass thereafter, short after. And on the other side for Tulane, the fact that they were able to run the ball, and then you see the quarterback change. Are they going to put up 66 against Houston? I don't think so. But I just didn't like the way the offenses were going. Tulane's defense has looked pretty good, haven't allowed more than 27 points in any of their games. But, yeah, that's not just – yeah, I wouldn't trust it. Just –
all right, no move for us in Tulane, Houston. Interesting. Jay Certified says Tulane lost to Navy by 3, while Houston lost to Navy by 15. Says do the math, Tulane +7. Jay Certified not afraid to go up against this market move. You know, maybe we'll ask John Ryan if he's making a move on this spot. But I very uncomfortable. 33, they're breaking in 33 junior college FCS and FBS transfers. Rob Watkins says 68.9 points last year's meeting, and yes, it was last year. What just quickly? I know we want to move on to your two looks and then bring on John Ryan, but what do you think about the fact that nobody has any tape on what Houston is going to be doing this year? That Tulane's ability to move the ball on the ground so easily so far this year, and Houston having a problem with that last year, would lead towards the over.
I mean, I would agree to that, but I mean, I just think that I couldn't take the over specifically because Houston's is their first time out. Offenses take a little bit of time to gel because of the rhythm factor and the fact that Tulane just look pretty good on defense. But yeah, I just think there's just a lot of unknown. Like you said, a lot of moving pieces that come in, and it's tough. You know, the defense does have returners. Like you said, 6 returners total, but they do have returners on the defense. A lot of returners on there, and I don't know. I just think that's public perception on a Houston team versus Tulane here.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to move at this point. Let's talk about a couple moves that Nolly knows is making. We're going to start with 4 p.m. Eastern, Florida Atlantic, 1-0 on the season, going up against Southern Miss at Southern Miss. Southern Miss 1-3, but 1-1 in Conference USA. Florida Atlantic, Southern Miss. Let's see what we're getting from a market perspective. Florida Atlantic opening up as -3.5 point favorites on the road. That goes down to 2.5 and 2 at a couple books. This total has dropped fast, and you talked about weather dealing with these huge drops. 65 was the opening total. It's now all the way down to 57. Nolly knows. FAU, Southern Miss. Take it away.
Yeah, it's a total that I had to kind of re-go in the game and recap the game myself, being that the move was made down. But the move is for all the right reasons, and to me, I still see value in the game. Florida Atlantic, you see a change of shift from Lane Kiffin's style of offense over here now. Willie Taggart over there at the helm, and Willie Taggart, a guy that struggled his last few seasons. You know, he had a lot of success over there at South Florida, but not a lot of recent success. Finds a home here in Florida. That's kind of where his stronghold is in recruiting, and the style of offense is where I've seen him deploy recently is heavily, a lot more heavy to the run, and you've seen that's where most of their success came from. They were able to run for 217 yards on 33 attempts, but only pass for 98 yards. A weakness for them, and that's a weakness for the Southern Miss side, and I just don't expect them to exploit that very much. And for Southern Miss, they were able to take care of North Texas. North Texas is dealing with some COVID issues, and that I believe that's what that's what led to a lot of scoring over there. But a different type of game. I don't expect them to really get over 41 much in many more games going forward. This is a Southern Miss team that dealt with their coach, Jay Hobson, stepping down. He was there for 10 years, and suddenly after the first game, decided to step down and said with his athletic director that they kind of came to terms and agreed that new leadership was needed in the team, and that's a big blow. People thought maybe that they gave up in the second half of Tulane, and maybe so, but they came back and played well. But again, I mentioned against a bad North Texas team. Here, the total, especially the way it dropped initially, is more indicative of to what a Florida Atlantic team was last year. They were able to beat Southern Miss handily last year, 34-17. But that's no indication of what happens this year and what Willie Taggart brings to the table. I think the total still has value here. Even at that, I grabbed a 57.5, and I still like the move.
All right, we have an under Florida Atlantic, Southern Mississippi. Even at this point at 57, still sees value in the under Florida Atlantic at Southern Mississippi. Let's move on to a 7:30 p.m. start. Mississippi State at Kentucky. Mississippi State 1-1, 1-1 in the SEC. Kentucky 0-2, 0-2 in the SEC. This total opened up at 57.5, and there's been very little movement. Although, depending on where you line shop, you can get it between 56.5 and 58. Kentucky opens up as 3-point home favorites. That's gone all the way down to 1.5 at some books. There is not a 3 on the board. There is a 2.5, between 2.5 and 1.5, depending on where you shop. Mississippi State, Kentucky. Take it away, Nolly.
Yeah, interesting game here for me. When I look at Mississippi State, I just referenced it a little bit earlier with Mike Leach taking over there and going to the air raid offense. And you see Arkansas was able to kind of slow them down last week, trying to go with more defenders. That's something that Washington deployed. But here with Kentucky, I really don't feel that they have what it takes to be able to stop the run. They've been thrown on quite a bit, giving up 276 yards per game. And on the other side for their offense, they've been doing pretty well, producing some points and running quite a bit. But what I see here is that they rely heavily on the run, and on the other side, that's Mississippi State's strong point on their defensive side. If they're not able to get the running game, it's going to be a long day for Kentucky. And the fact that I don't see that they're able to really hold down the passing game, I expect a bounce back game here from Mississippi State. I don't think that Kentucky will be able to keep up. I mean, they went at it with Ole Miss, but I think Mississippi State's defense is significantly better than Ole Miss's, and I don't think they'll be able to keep up here. I took Mississippi State on the money line at plus 110.
Mississippi State on the money line for Nolly knows. I like it. Let's just do a quick little bit of line shopping and see what the money lines are offering you on Mississippi State. This is a 7:30 p.m. Eastern start and plus 110. Yeah, those are pretty much gone. You can get between plus 103 and there's one plus 110 on the board. Mississippi State, we got 2 looks from our Nolly knows. He is backing the under in FAU Southern Miss, and he's backing Mississippi State on the money line. Nolly knows. Great work, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us today. Follow Nolly on Twitter at Nolly562. Nolly, any last words for these great cappers in the chat, my friend?
Hey, good luck to everybody in the chat. Hopefully, gave you a little bit of info to help you keep you on or talk you off or whatever it is. But good luck to everybody.
There he is. Nolly knows in the house. Thanks for all your hard work, my friend.
Thank you very much, Jimmy. It's always a pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
Love it. You can catch Nolly Knows here every Wednesday and Thursday on Betting with the Bag. All righty. We move from Nolly Knows and we jump into John Ryan time. John, how are you, my man? We don't have your audio, John. Don't have your audio. See if you can.
I had it muted. Sorry.
No problem. No problem.
Sometimes it's a good thing for me to be muted.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Jimmy. How about you?
I'm baseball's getting me, making me angry. So, it is what it is. But let's find winners. We are going to talk NFL. But first we're going to have John Ryan give us a few of his looks in NCAA football. John, let's get right after it. You've picked some big games to attack. Number 4 ranked Florida up against number 21 ranked Texas A&M. This is a 12 p.m. Eastern start for you, John. Let's see what the market is doing here. Florida, that's a money line. Sorry, let me move to spreads and get some totals up here. Florida opens up at -6. Now -6.5 and 1 -7 on the board. This total staying firm. It opened at 57.5. And now we have 57s. The big game. 2 ranked opponents, Florida, Texas A&M. Take it away, John.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. The game here is a lot of it has to do with the betting flows. And the betting flows as of this morning had, as you would expect, a lot of money going on the Gators. So of the number of tickets, almost 80% are on the Gators of the 20 sports books that I track. And 87% of the money is on the Gators. So this is one of those situations where you can have the pros and the Joes on the same side. And what I mean by that is that's the professional bettor, the wise guy, and the public on the same side. And that doesn't mean that it's a red flag where the public is wrong or the pros are wrong. It just means that everybody has a consensus here. It is a little bit extreme, and I expect that to see some money coming back in on the Texas A&M Aggies to push these percentages a little bit lower than where they're at right now. Ranked teams coming off a loss. So Texas A&M was coming off a loss. And this is based on a betting system that has earned a 138 and 83 against the spread record over the last 10 seasons. And serves the active bettor pretty well, having that many games in such a short period of time. It has produced a profit of $4,300 for the $100 bettor for a 19% return on investment, to use some Wall Street lingo, which is important and valid, and that stands ROI. So this betting system has 4 parameters that work together to produce these consistent profits. So the requirements are to bet on teams in the regular and postseason that were a bowl or playoff team from the previous season and are coming off a straight up loss of 14 to 31 points as a ranked team. So again, I'll read that one more time. The requirements are to bet on teams in the regular or postseason that were a bowl team or playoff team in last year's action and are coming off a very bad loss of 14 to 31 points as a ranked team. So the Aggies, as we know, are coming off a loss to number 2 Alabama, and was a play that I bet on and lost. I actually had it on our show last week. The final score, 52-24, losing by 28, and failing to cover the spread as an 18-point road underdog. So there you have it for the betting system that supports this play here. So tweaking the system a little bit produces a 7-17 straight up record, 9-15 against the spread for only 38% winning bets, with a ranked team coming off a horrible 14 to 31 point loss to a team ranked better than them, which was Alabama, and now is facing another team ranked better than them in the AP polls. So this works tremendously in favor of the Gators. I like the Gators a ton on this game. This is one of my big plays of the week on this weekend's card.
I like it. Florida Gators 2-0, 2-0 in the SEC. What do you have? What did you get in on Florida with? It opened at Bet365 at -6. It's now -6.5. What number did you get?
Unfortunately, I got 6.5. It is what it is. You always try to get the best price you can. With my machine learning projections, sometimes people have said, well, if you think the Gators are going to win by 14, what difference does it make what your line is? It's going to be 6.5, 7. It could be 9. But it's always smart to get the best possible price that you can. It's like you wouldn't pay $300 for Apple computer stock when you can get it for $294. So I think it is worthwhile to work for those half points and even more than that when you can.
We got John Ryan on the board backing the number 4 ranked Florida Gators on the road at Texas A&M. That's a 12 p.m. start. John's next game he wants to break down is another 12 p.m. start. Number 22 ranked Texas, 2-1, 1-1 in the Big 12 at Oklahoma. Oklahoma 0-2 in the Big 12, 1-2 overall. Texas.
Yeah, this has always been a very exciting game for me. Arguably one of my best long-term friends went to Oklahoma. I was recruited by Texas, did not attend there though. But most of the time my heart in this game is on the Longhorns, and we have our own little special bets going on. What a lot of people don't realize, I think, is there's a lot of stuff going on around this game. Like the Texas State Fair has always been a big attraction, and that's not going to be happening this year. And there's going to be no fans at the Texas State Fair doing tailgating and everything else that was so much fun. And for the players, it's going to be pretty strange because the tradition is they bring the buses through the middle of the Texas State Fair on the way to the Cotton Bowl, which is right next door to the Texas State Fair. And the fans line up on either side of the road, and it's either booing and cheering depending on who is supporting what team. And it's actually a pretty cool experience. It's not a violent type of situation. It's very enthusiastic. I'll put it as that. So with that missing, it's going to be a strange game. But what is even more strange is that Oklahoma has lost 2 of their last games. So I'll ask you, Jimmy, how many times do you think Oklahoma has been on a losing streak? A losing streak meaning 2 games or more. Since 1980, I'll ask you.
Since 1980, how many times is Oklahoma being on a losing streak of 2 or more? And a great bet, by the way, last week, fading them. I will say twice.
Well, it's I kind of led you into that lower number, but it's 19 times over the last 40 seasons.
Okay.
So think about that. That's probably approaching 500 games, including the bowl games. And only 19 times have they ever had a 2-game or more losing streak. The last time it happened was in 1999 in week 8. So even though that was 20 years ago, Oklahoma came out the following week and smoked Texas A&M at home 51-6 as a 3.5-point underdog. So in this game, I see them as a favorite, not being ranked, against a ranked conference foe. So you can tell I'm already leaning towards the Sooners. The Sooners also find themselves in a rare situation, entering this game with a losing record and not being ranked. You may remember 2 weeks ago they were ranked 3rd, lost, dropped off a cliff to number 18, lost again at Iowa State, and now they're unranked, which is very, very rare for them. Since 1995, that's happened only 12 times. So the last game that occurred was in week 5 of the 2016 season, in which the Sooners then traveled to play the Texas Christian University Horned Frogs, love saying that mascot, and defeated them in a shootout 52-46 and covered the spread as 3.5-point favorites this time. So there is a trend that shows that after these just absolutely pathetic performances, and that's the only thing I can call it with the Sooners right now, that they do get their act together and they come back with a vengeance. And adding to it is the fuel of this big rivalry against Texas. There is a betting system here. And this is really interesting, Jimmy, because this is one of the few times in my 26 years I've ever seen this. So here's the betting system. Over the last 10 years, it's gone 43-15 for 74% winning bets. Pretty good. Dime player has made $27,250 on these bets spanning that 10 seasons. So the requirements are that you're going to play against any team that is lined within 3 points on either side of pick'em and has been outscoring their opponents by 7 or more points per game and has a struggling defense that has allowed 31 or more points in 2 consecutive games. So what is really rare about this is that it applies to both teams. So this betting system I'm presenting only for the purposes of people writing it down and tracking it because it's such a powerful one and that I've done really, really well with. But it's the first time I've ever seen one of these super systems that spans 10 years apply to both teams in the same game. So it's neutralized, but it's still worthwhile to track.
Very interesting. So after successfully fading Oklahoma last week, you are jumping on the Sooner train here. And the number you can get is 2.5. 2.5 here. What did you get it at?
2.5.
2.5? Oklahoma.
Yeah, what I do, for what it's worth, is I do 2 different things. If we have time for me to mention the betting philosophy I've learned over the years. With the advent of live betting, I have found it very successful to put down 50% of the normal size bet prior to the game. So in this case, let's say, just for an example's sake, I know not everybody bets $1,000 a game, but it makes it easy for me to do as an example. So you normally bet $1,000 a game on the games you like. So you put 500 at minus 2.5. You then take the other 500 and ride it into the game. And you're almost hoping that Texas scores first. Texas scores first or actually gets out to a 10-0 lead. You then have half of your normal bet in hand to take advantage of the Sooners being an underdog. So if Texas would get out to a hot start, you could then get Oklahoma at an even cheaper price, and you average in your betting line, and that has worked really, really well in these big games. I haven't tested it with my models or the database for the lesser conferences, only because of time. But in any of the big 5, I highly recommend it. And as I always say, do it on paper. You don't have to use real money to get real results. See what the live bet line is, write it down, put down what you would have bet on it, and go from there. It's been extraordinarily good in the NBA. We are here to talk about the college football.
But that's a great way of doing things. I love that, and makes it so much more enjoyable too when you know that you can attack while you're watching the game. Right.
You're taking advantage of the situation because honestly, if you like Oklahoma at minus 2.5, you're going to love them at +3, and that's what I found to be really good technique. And one last thing about this game, I'll ask you this question: do you think Texas can hold the Sooners to fewer than 28 points?
Well, if you are reading what the chat is saying, they think that 72 is not high enough of a total. So
I would agree with you.
The answer would be no.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And the Sooners, when they have scored more than 28 points, they have gone on to a 92-13 straight up record. So this brings in the money line, which would be pretty cheap even now, given that they're 2.5-point favorites. They're 61-43 with one push against the spread when scoring 28 or more. And conversely, I think, and the models think, that the Sooners will hold Texas to less than 28. And in that situation, the Sooners are 72-2 straight up and 51-1 against the spread. That the average cover was 6.4 points in every one of those games, including the losses. So the pivot point on 28, the Sooners get over 28, that might even be a 0.2 that you look at the live bet. And even if it's -7, 9, it doesn't really matter, because our history tells us that when Oklahoma goes over that 28 barrier, it usually results in an ATS win.
There you have it. We have John Ryan on number 4 ranked Florida, and also backing Oklahoma on the 12 o'clock starts on Saturday. Let's move on to a 3:30 p.m. start, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Number 14th ranked Tennessee going up against number 3 ranked Georgia. Both teams 2-0 in the SEC. And we have Georgia opening up as 14-point favorites at Bet365 and being bet down to 12.5-point favorites. This total as well, opening up at 45, being bet down to 42.5. John Ryan, take it away. Tennessee, Georgia.
This is a season where I don't think we have to feel sorry for the Tennessee Volunteers. It always seems in previous seasons they're the team that you want to kind of pull for as an underdog against some of these bigger giants in the SEC. But at the end of the day, they end up losing, and sometimes losing in horrible fashion. But this year, head coach Jeremy Pruitt has 17 starters of the previous 22 coming back and are back. And that's a huge factor for them this year, especially having junior redshirt quarterback Jeremy Guarantano returning, and his experience is going to be invaluable. It's already paying dividends. He's gone 33 for 54, 61%, 449 passing yards, 2 TDs, and 0 interceptions. So his job really is to not make mistakes. There's enough power in the running game, and depth on the offensive line, and in my opinion, is the deepest in the SEC. And when you have the offensive line coming back that played together for at least one season, that is only a good thing. So I think this game is going to be much, much closer than that point spread indicates. As we've seen with the Georgia team, I had Auburn last week, and I'll admit that I lost. That was a horrible play, but it's just one play in the course of a whole season. And I think everybody gets that point. The Bulldogs had 3 official returning starters on offense, yet their offense is playing like they've been playing together for 4 years. So, having a quarterback, which is Stetson Bennett, and he's a great story. If you guys out there have any time to go check him out, he's a walk-on. And who doesn't love a walk-on? It kind of reminds you of the Rudy thing, but this is a real stud. Wasn't recruited by anybody, wanted to go to Georgia, told the coach, hey, I'm here to play. He's 5'11", 190 pounds, and hardly the prototypical quarterback, even in the SEC, let alone Division III. Not putting down Division III, because there's some athletes in there too that do get drafted in the NFL. But you understand my point. It's not the typical athlete coming out of high school that won 5 state titles at the quad A level and has all this pedigree behind him. So it's a neat story with him, and he has stepped up in the starting quarterback position like he's been playing it his whole life. So that is a very good situation for them. The betting line is giving us a play of the 20 sports books I track. There's a little bit over 1,000 tickets now bet. It's pretty even at 49.5% Volunteers, 50.5% on the Bulldogs. However, the money flow, and that's what is so important, paints a different picture, seeing 78% of the money on the Volunteers and 22% on the Bulldogs. So this undeniably shows that the smart money, the bigger better, the professional gambler is on Tennessee, and I think rightfully so. Getting double digits with this team, with all the returning starters this early in the season, week 4, is too good to be true, in my opinion. So I like the Volunteers here quite a bit.
And our Big Ragu put out a great article on odds.com before the season started with him thinking that the Volunteers were going to give a ton of value throughout the season, and certainly being right so far. Tennessee now at 12.5. What number did you get them at?
13. It actually opened at some places at 14.5.
Wow.
And it's been dropping. So again, I'm not concerned about the decline in price because of what I just said about the money flows. And you would expect it to start dropping. But it's dropping for the right reasons. So I even if it goes to 11 and there's guys out there that can't bet the game until Saturday morning, and the line is still double digits, which I'm sure it will be, it's still a great opportunity in my opinion. If you told me Sunday morning and I didn't see the game that the Tennessee Volunteers upset the Georgia Bulldogs, I don't think I'd be all that surprised. I would be surprised if Georgia beat them 28-10. That would be pretty shocking to me in the other direction.
Do you agree with this market move on the total? We saw it open up here at 45, and it's down to 42.5 at some books.
Yeah, because both defenses are playing extraordinarily well. There's actually a under betting system I'll share with you. This is a 10-year system that supports the under. It's a 33-10 record over the last 10 years. The requirements are pretty simple. You're going to bet the under you're going to bet the under with any team in a game that has a total of 42.5 to 49.5 points, including those numbers, after allowing 14 or fewer points in 2 consecutive games, and is facing an opponent after allowing 7 or fewer points in the first half of each of their last 2 games. So you can see that the defenses, Tennessee and Georgia, fit into this betting system, and the system has hit 77% over 10 years. So I don't have an official play on the under, but if you wanted to do a parlay, I think it would have to be Tennessee and the under.
I like it. Official plays from John Ryan, backing Tennessee, plus 13, backing Oklahoma, and backing Florida. Florida, Oklahoma, and Tennessee for John Ryan in NCAA football. John, great stuff. Let's move on to the Thursday nighter in NFL. A fascinating game. Bucks, Bears. Let's see what's going on here with the market moves and discuss the best way to play it, because I have yet to play it. Tampa Bay opens up as 6-point favorites, and it just keeps dropping. 3s on the board now. 1-4 left, a few 3.5s, but we have 3s on the board now. And this total has started climbing again. It opened at 45, and it went down. Let's see what it went down to. Let's take some of these indicator books. Opened up at 45, went down to 44, down to 43, and then started to climb back Tuesday night. Tuesday night, they moved back to 44, and then stick at 44 to 44.5 last night, and that's where it is right now, 44.5, and some 45s Bucks at Bears. Now, my initial thought was, why is this going down so low? It's going to be a nice day in Chicago. Why not jump on the over? And we talked about it. And then I almost pulled the trigger on the Buccaneers team total over. Came very close to backing this team total over at 24.5. I would just like to see what it would be right now very quickly. Buccaneers, here we go, team props. And wow. So as this market has changed with the Bucs becoming less and less favorites, the Chicago Bears is the team total that's gone up. So this Buccaneers team total is still at 24.5, but it's heavily juiced to the under now, minus 138 to the under and plus 100 to the over. So let's just talk about a couple of the very important spots, and that's that Brady's rolling 5 TD passes to 5 different receivers last week against the Chargers. And we talked on Tuesday about the terrible decision Anthony Lynn made in that game. We don't need to get into that. Evans, 7 catches for 122 yards. He's rolling. The problem with this 5 different players catching TD passes is this Bucs offense is beat up. And the health of these receivers that all didn't practice on Tuesday must have been on the field Wednesday, and that has to be the reason this total is moving back up, because you had Scotty Miller with hip groin, Chris Godwin hamstring, Mike Evans ankle, Justin Watson chest, all injured, and we know O.J. Howard out for the year. Fournette, game time decision. LaShawn McCoy, week to week, he's out, and you had both defensive ends, Golston and JPP, questionable. That's there. And then from the Bears, you had Foles unable to move the ball against a Colts defense that was only rushing 4 and putting 7 back in the secondary. They weren't able to 269 yards and only 28 on the ground for the Bears, going up against a Bucs offense that was slashed by Herbert and the Chargers. No move for me yet, but I want to make a move. I won't force one. Dennis Garcia says Brady is not rolling. Mediocre offense. If you throw 40 tough times a game, you'll put up some numbers. Top set is on the first quarter under. Turmoil says can't bet against my man Tom Brady. John Ryan, take it away. Bears, Bucs.
Well, there's a lot to talk about in this game, of course. I think what is happening here is that the Bucs are flying under the radar. And I know that's hard to understand because Brady's on the team and they have high expectations and he's got all these weapons now. But it seems like the attention is on the dysfunction of the Dallas Cowboys in the media and anything else that has nothing to do with the Bucs. But I think if you look at the first 3 games, head coach Arians has always been throw the ball downfield, vertical routes. That's his resume. And you're starting to see that more and more with each progressive week. There were no OTAs, there were no preseason games for Brady to get any chemistry with these guys. But each week now you see him take a step forward and getting better and better and better. But I think the real story in Tampa is the defense. I've been looking at some of the same game film that we can all watch in those abbreviated, condensed versions. And the speed of that defense, nobody mentions that. What the defense has done overall the last 3 games. And despite the fact that last week they got down 24-7, I thought I was watching the Super Bowl when they beat the Falcons and it was the Patriots. That was another game where it doesn't matter that Brady's 42 years old. He did what he did. I think it was like right at the end of the half, they kicked a field goal. And then in a minute 15, he threw a touchdown pass to Mike Evans. And that was the momentum changer. The next 2 possessions in the third quarter, they scored TDs. Not field goals either, TDs. And they took a lead that they never relinquished. So I have a hard time understanding why this line's going down. Brady, his whole career, has thrown to guys that he met one day, and the guys are coming from the bus stop to fill in and plug and play for guys that are injured, and he's used to it. So I think the over here, both on the team, which you mentioned at 24.5, I had not given that any consideration at all until you mentioned it. But I think it's hard to imagine the Bucs not rolling tonight on national TV. And of course, the betting public too is going to think that, Brady threw 5 touchdown passes last week. He's not going to do that again. Well, he doesn't have to. And I have some interesting stats here on quarterbacks who have thrown for 5 touchdown passes. So since the 2002 season, there's been 98 times that a quarterback has thrown for 5 or more touchdown passes. And their team record in these games are 88-13, And against the spread, 78, 15, and 5, which you would expect. If you throw for 5 touchdowns, you should win. So I then thought the next question to ask is, which quarterbacks have thrown for 5 or more touchdowns the most? So at the top of the list, a little trivia question, not a hard one, but it's Drew Brees. He has 11% of the 98 games for 11 games. Tom Brady is third with 8. And Peyton Manning, the comedian on TV now, has 10. So I grouped them. I took all 4 of the top 4 with Brees, Manning, Brady, and Ben Roethlisberger was the fourth. And that accounts for 35% of those games. All right, so let's get to what really matters is against the spread. In a game following a 5-touchdown performance, Brady, obviously all with the New England Patriots, has earned a 6-1 record, 4-3 against the spread. So at minus 3 points here, playing the money line is pretty attractive with the Bucks. The over went 5-2 in those 7 games for Brady. Peyton Manning was 8-2 straight up, 7-3 against the spread. Big Ben was 5-1, but 2-4 against the spread. And Brees 6-5 straight up, but losing 5-6 against the spread. So at the end of the day, the side ends up being pretty even, but the over sticks out in a huge way, and it has a 23-10 record with 1 push, betting the over in a game in which the previous game had a quarterback that threw for 5 or more touchdowns. If I can go on just one more layer here, I took out Peyton Manning because he's retired and not active. So Russell Wilson becomes the next one in line of the active players, ranking 4th. Similar results. The over has gone 18-9 with 1 push for 67% winning bets with those 4 elite quarterbacks. So it's hard to go against that, in my opinion. And lastly, with the machine learning, my model says that Brady will throw for 275 yards minimum, and that both teams will score at least 23 points. Now, both teams scoring 23 points in this situation with such a low total is a self-fulfilling prophecy. I understand that. But in all games where the total could have been 50 or even higher, and in the Bucks had met or exceeded those performance measures, the over was 45-2 since 2000. And when they were on the road, 12-0, 100% over since 2015. So I love your idea with the over.
I wish I had to pull the trigger 43 on Tuesday, and I came so close. I was just trying to figure out why it was getting bet down so low before I moved on the over. And even waiting at this point is now giving me a plus line on the over 24.5 Bucks. When I say you could have either the full game total over 44.5, and that would be at a minus 110, or Buccaneers team total over 24.5 at plus 100, what do you feel is more appealing?
The game, the over 44.5 for sure. Because that takes out the possibility that I'm way off on my analysis with the Bucks, and the Bucks don't win. Foles is still a quarterback. You know, he was at the Super Bowl MVP with the Eagles. I don't know why the Eagles ever got rid of him. But he's on the national stage tonight, and he's a guy that gets on the field, and the chemistry's great. And I have no doubt right now that they will score 23 or more points.
And no doubt that the Bears will score 23 or more points. But earlier in this, you were talking about the strength of the Buccaneers defense. So is it that you believe in the Bears offense more than you believe in the Buccaneers defense?
No, it's more of the Bucs scoring, having the potential to score in the 30s with the way they're playing right now. Mm-hmm. And then the Bucs defense contains, and as we've seen so many times with well-coached teams, and I consider Coach Arians one of those elite coaches, the defense then will contain between the 20s. So once an offense gets into the red zone, they'll tighten things up, but only with a lead and only with a 2 or 3 score lead. So that's the rub there with the Chicago defense playing well. But honestly, they haven't faced an offense like the Bucs. Even with the injuries, they haven't faced a team like the Bucs.
We saw an interesting situation when the Buccaneers traveled to Mile High in Denver. That game had 33 points scored in the first half, but what happened was the Broncos weren't putting up points, and there was no need to air the ball out anymore, and it was just time to run the clock, and 5 points were scored in the second half, and the Bucs still put up 28 points in that game. How would you compare the Chicago Bears defense to the Denver Broncos defense at this point, and including all the injuries the Broncos defense has gone through? Do you see the Bears defense as being quite a bit stronger than the Broncos defense?
That's a hard one, Jimmy, to be honest with you. That would actually be honest. That would require me to go into the database and do some math work on it. We have a limited sample size as well, but I guess I'm not trying to change the subject here. But look at what Tampa Bay's defense did to the Chargers last week in the second half. It was a game of 2 different games between first half and second half. Mm-hmm. No doubt Denver and Chicago have strong defenses, and that's going to help their quarterbacks. No doubt. They're not elite offensive teams that you can expect to go out and score 28 every single week like the Chiefs or the Packers. They have to win with defense and getting off the field so the offense can be on more. So the more drive opportunities the Bears and the Broncos get in a game, the better. So I apologize for not being able to give you a good answer there, but that's a tough one. I almost have them in my head, like initially, I think they're equal. Mm-hmm. And I could be way off on that, but we can talk about that another time.
No, I love your breakdowns, and there's no reason to, your analysis comes through study, and I just threw a question at you very quickly, so no problem there.
That's okay.
So are you going to pull the trigger on the over 44.5?
Yes.
There we go. And over 44.5 for our man, John Ryan. And I want to get a little bit more information on the Buccaneers injuries if I'm going to pull the trigger on the team total over 24.5. Although I do like the plus 100 line that's sitting right there. And Dennis Garcia says, statistically speaking, yards per play and yards play against are the exact same for Denver and Chicago. Matt Randall's already on the under. Sean Dozier's on Scotty Miller over 54.5 yards receiving. And Ron Walsack says Bucs receivers injuries, Evans, Godwin, Justin could all be out. Dump offs for Brady had Bucs team total over last 2 weeks, not tonight. There you go. Ron Walsack had the Bucs team total over last 2 weeks, but not tonight. All right. And I'm sitting 16 and 17 on the year, and that's worse than it sounds. My 16 and 17 on the year is down 2.95 units with an average line of minus 111, ROI minus 8.94%. So I'm not going to force a spot here. Two Cooley says 4 points is too low for Brady. Top set on the first quarter under. To review, John Ryan, who will be joining us again tomorrow, is on the over in the Buccaneers-Bears game Thursday night. And then in college football, John Ryan has moved on Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Florida. And Jeff Joseph says short week equals under. Big Drew is on the under. And Desar says Bucs play Green Bay next week at home, Sunday Night Football, so I think they win, but somehow don't cover. I think they win, but somehow don't cover. John, thank you so much, my friend. Please
my pleasure.
John on Twitter, John Ryan Sports. I'm going to pop that right into the chat right now. Jump on Twitter and give this man a follow. Constantly putting out angles to get you paid at John Ryan Sports 1 right there. I just popped it in the chat. Give him a follow. John, thank you so much. Looking forward to hear the college football games that you break down tomorrow. Also, if you want to pick a couple NFL spots that you want to discuss, please do. We'd love to hear it.
Will do. Can't wait.
Sweet. There he is, John Ryan. Thanks so much, my man.
You bet. Take care, Jimmy.
There he is, John Ryan in the house. Okay, so that is our show for today. That is our show for today in MLB. Nolly making a move on the Marlins first 5, but that was the only spot that he pulled the trigger on. And so I'm going to keep an eye on Nolly's Twitter at Nolly562 to see what else he decides to do. I am still waiting for a market for the Oakland A's that has yet to come up. And I'm going to back them first 5. And then I'm going to double up on the Rays first 5 full game, but I'm going to keep waiting and seeing if the Yankee tax is going to come in. And let me also say that I lost 5 straight in MLB, so I'm not sitting here with a ton of confidence. Von Polo back from Vegas. Von Polo, I hope you had a great time. I can't wait till we're there partying together, my friend. But I hope you had a spectacular time in Vegas. And we reviewed the NCAA football spots. Not a lot of us, at least nobody on the show here, making moves on Tulane, Houston. Love to hear what DJ Big Boss and Big Ragu are planning for that spot. Other than that, we got a lot of work to do. We have a big show tomorrow, and then I'll be back Sunday morning, 11 a.m. with Rob Bebenek to cap NFL. Big shout out to all the cappers in the chat joining us. Von Polo, Dom Ricci, Cash Action Bets, West, The Czar, Ben Martin, Turmoil X says, I think Kyle Wright going to get eaten alive today, says Turmoil. Matt Randall, Birdie, Talk Sports with JT, Too Cooley. Matt Randall, thank you for the very, very kind words here. Wonderful quote to shut us down with. Love it. Prince of the City, Ravi Patel, Viper NB, AJS, Ari Miller, Big Drew, Jeff Joseph. Let's have ourselves a day today. I need to get Ravi says, Jimmy, get on the Marlins. I can't do it because I just think that Kyle Wright is better than his numbers indicate. Bloods W says, when is Loshak going to be back on? I would like to find that out as well. I love him dearly. And Nolly Mo says, the disrespect to where San Diego at while I'm on. Hey, I got it with the Pryor, though. I got it with Pryor. Thank you guys so much. Let's get off the Schneid and MLB. Let's have ourselves a day. Enjoy Thursday night football. Enjoy sports as much as possible. Because we might have some barren weeks here moving forward. Lecce, hey, those bookmakers! Paid in full. I need to get paid in full.